retire early because working late never suited anyone. That's my saying for the day. Welcome, everybody, to Retirement Compass Radio Show with Stonebridge Wealth Systems. I've got Mr. Gove and Mr. Kulhanek here on the show today. How are you both?
Doing good.
Good. Everyone checking in, raising hands. We were just talking about...
You can't do it like that, Jackie.
You can't?
No, be careful. Be
it has
careful.
to be waving?
There, you got to wave the hand. Uh-oh. Straight arm bad.
I like the Queen's wave.
That works. There you go.
All right. We were just talking about the raising your hands because Mr. Gove's kids are probably going to go to college and study education. So, all right, everybody, raise your hand. Yep.
Levanta la mano, por favor.
Oh.
Okay.
Is that please raise your hand in Spanish?
Yeah, levanta la mano.
Oh.
Abran el libro a página 2.
I feel like you're making stuff up right now.
I'm not actually. It's just that Mrs. Schulte drilled this into my head in 8th grade Spanish. So I remember, Puedo ir al baño, por favor? Like, kudos to you.
Mm-hmm.
So Schulte, raise your hand. Was that because you were just blurting out, like they say, you don't raise your hand and wait your turn to talk? You just... Is that how you learned that one?
I don't know, actually. I don't think so, but... there was... I didn't understand any of the other words she was saying, so there's a chance. It's like, all right, levanta la mano. My name was Lorenzo, by the way. So we all had Spanish names, and I was Lorenzo.
Mm-hmm.
Cute.
I don't answer to it normally, but...
Yes, I did too. Joaquina. That's what they call me.
There you go, Joaquina.
Joaquina Selbina, which really isn't Spanish. It just sounds it.
Sounds not Spanish, but okay.
Well, let's get around to retiring, shall we? And I feel like our segment is all about retiring with more money than you need. These things, this is a nice situation. This is a nice problem to have. Maybe by your RMDs, you have already got all the money in your lifestyle set up and so forth. So let's get rid of some of this money. So how do we not outlive our money? How do we not outlive our charity? It seems like there's lots of ways to give this money away, Mr. Kulhanek. This is going to be fun. So what happens when you give while you live? I guess that's my topic.
Give while you live. Yeah, I think it's important. This is why, when somebody comes in or gives us a call from the radio program, TV show, whatever it is, comes to a workshop, I've heard this before, not that often, but sometimes people will say something along the lines of, am I starting this planning phase or planning kind of arrangement too early? Am I getting the cart before the horse? I'm still, 5 years, 10 years, 8 years away from retirement. Do I need to wait a little bit before I start putting plans in place for how I'm going to retire? And, there's all that whole, a lot of different sayings we could go with. There's no penalty for being overprepared. But at the end of the day, a lot of folks do arrive when they get to the, doorstep of retirement. They arrive with, they pack more bags than necessarily they needed to. And that means that they may have sacrificed some lifestyle along the way because they think, I can't afford to do that. And so sometimes I give people the opposite advice. If you come in and you want to retire at 67 and you're only 58 or 59 years old, sometimes you're going to get maybe really good news that you didn't expect to get, which is, hey, you know what? You're on the right track. In fact, you're already ready for the plane to land. You've done all of, the hard work along the way. You've done a good job investing. You've been diligent about dollar cost averaging. You paid off all your debt. You don't have a house payment. You, have sufficient guaranteed income sources, whether that's from a pension or an annuity or Social Security. And if we can start checking those boxes ahead of time at like 58, 59, 60, maybe the advice that Jeff and I would give would be like, hey, you probably don't need to be saving as much as you are right now. Maybe you should spend more time living and enjoying, experiences while you're younger and healthier and have the opportunity to do those things. Because I think managing lifestyle is important. None of us know what's around the corner. If you think about driving down the highway, when I was growing up, we'd go up to Ansley quite a bit, and we on Highway 40 heading towards the flashing light at Miller. Before you get there, there's quite a few different curves, and you don't know what's coming around the bend. And for us as humans, that includes health issues or changes with jobs. It could be loss of a job, impact from things like technology that could impact the longevity of our working years. And so I think it's important to be realistic, but also to get a benchmark sooner rather than later so you know where you stand. And if you get the news that, hey, you know what? Yeah, you're on the right track, but there's a few tweaks we probably need to make. Think about it like a panel with a bunch of different dials on it. Maybe we just need to turn a few of them up and a few of them down. Sometimes you might get the advice that, you know what, you're ahead of schedule. You're going to have way more income than you need. Like, that's not a bad thing per se, but it's not necessary. Maybe we could enjoy life a little bit more right now versus feeling like we have to, scrunch and save and live more of a conservative lifestyle than what would otherwise be available to us.
I like that. I'm going to give your number here, 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146 to call Stonebridge. Now, this is a good idea, 58, 59, 60. Get a view of what's going on, because I feel like a lot of people do oversave. My mom oversaved. She was so frugal because she grew up during the Depression. Yeah. And so it was just always have that big reserve because she feared the bank was going to close, Yeah. So she had mattresses stuffed and CDs everywhere and all that kind of stuff. Of course, mind you, this was in the 90s, but still, it's a good idea to get a good picture of what's going to be happening with you financially going into retirement. 866-295-5146. All right, Mr. Gove, how about this grandparent situation? Can grandparents gift a Roth IRA to their grandkids?
So you could fund a Roth IRA for, your kids or grandkids, but they would have to have earnings. So if you have, for your kids or your grandkids, let's say your grandkids are 16 and they're working and they're filing a tax return, you could give for them up to $7,000 and put it into a Roth IRA for them. But they have to have that earned income. The good thing about that, though, if you wanted to do some gifting, is it protects the kid from themselves a little bit, because if you put that money in there, they're looking long term for that money. So, when they get to 21, they could take it out potentially, but they would possibly pay penalties to do it. Otherwise, they can let it grow for the rest of their life. And when you look at the power of compound interest over their lifetime, those numbers would be huge, by the time they get to retirement age. So that's a great way to do it. You can do that for, like I said, grandkids, your kids. They would count against that. You can give $18,000 per year to an individual, so without it counting against your lifetime exemption. So that's a good idea if you have oversaved, which, I've never had anybody sit down and say, man, I wish I wouldn't have saved so much. It might be, I wish I would have done a few more things when I was younger, but I've never had anybody say, man, I hate that I have all this money.
But what I found, Jeff, is like sometimes I think there's a rational response to the concern of running out of money or living too long and ending up in a facility where you need health care and it's really, really expensive. But a lot of folks, what I found, Jeff, is have unfounded fear that they don't have enough. And I have the conversation. I'm like, I'll be honest, you're never going to spend all this money. You're not going to, I had a gentleman in my office the other day and he's got, $5 million saved for retirement. And he goes, I think this is going to be enough. What do you think? Yeah, I think you're taking like 1% distributions right now. You've got long-term care insurance. It's going to be enough. Let's get to spending it. And let's find a smart way to spend this. And if our goal is to leave it to the next generation, maybe we're funding 529 plans, because grandparent-owned 529 plans are great because it doesn't count so much further, like the FAFSA, if they want to be eligible for student aid. If they have earned income, like Jeff said, you can do this. Use some of that money, depending on where it's located, which tax bucket it's in. If legacy planning is a concern of yours and making sure that there's money left for the next generation, from leaving an inheritance to your children and your children's children, well, then we need to have a conversation about where those dollars are located. And if there's a bunch of money in that taxable bucket, let's start using that to pay the tax bill today so that tomorrow, later on, when we get to a point where tax rates mathematically required to go up, they could go up substantially. Right now, they're 30% below the median tax rate the tax rate for the median income earner right now is 30% below where it was in 2000. That doesn't make any sense. because we spend way more money as a country where the deficits are higher, and yet the effective tax rates are much lower. So mathematically, they have to go up. David Walker, former Comptroller General of the U.S. government, basically the lead auditor and accountant, has said as much. He knows what the books look like. He was there for 20-some years. So let's get a strategy in place to address some of these concerns. And along the way, let's make sure that you can enjoy it. Like you said, Jeff, that's the big thing is I think that because it's been ingrained in them that like a lot of the folks that are retired today, right, their parents, how did they grow up? They grew up with like nothing, right? And they were worried, like Jackie said, that the bank was going to close. So what they would do is they'd have CDs, and that's all they do. They didn't want to trust the stock market. They'd have CDs at 15 different banks in 3 different counties. Well, we don't have to live that way anymore. It's okay. We want to give our clients a license to spend their money, and that's what we try to do when folks come in and talk to us. And they can actually get a hold of us by giving us a call today.
Yeah. Here's the number. Give a call today. 866-295-5146 to reach Stonebridge. 866-295-5146. With offices all the way across Nebraska, well, anywhere in the Midwest, they're happy to see you. It's just all centralized into one phone number, 866-295-5146. And this is Retirement Compass Radio Show. Be right back.
Did you ever think your retirement would be shared with our government? It's true. Your traditional 401k, IRA, pension, or similar retirement accounts are like a partnership with the IRS. Simply put, they want their tax dollars, and you have them. With our latest tax calculator, you can plug in your own numbers while sitting at home. To find out what your future tax liability could be, scan the QR code or go to stonebridgetaxbill.com.
All right, Mr. Gove, what does leaving a legacy mean if we frame things in the same framework as last segment where maybe you have too much money at retirement?
Yeah, so when we look at the retirement compass, the last step is legacy plan. So then we're looking at, okay, you have the income that you need. We're being efficient with our tax plan. We have your health care covered. We have your investments covered. So now we're at the legacy plan. So now we're getting you through retirement. What happens with everything that you've saved? So for a lot of people, you might want to leave some money to charity. We talk all the time in the tax plan about doing Roth conversions. So let's say you wanted to leave $500,000 to Focus on the Family. He just passed away. What's his name? That runs Focus on the Family. He just died last week or this week.
Did he?
Yeah. I can't think of his name right now. But anyway, so let's say you wanted to leave money to Focus on the Family, $500,000, or Faith Christian School in Kearney. You could do that too.
Dr. James Dobson.
James Dobson. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Yeah. If you have IRAs or a 401k, let's say you had $1 million in your IRA or 401k, 500 of that you could leave to the charity and they wouldn't pay any tax on it. Where if you left it to your kids, they would have to pay income tax on that within 10 years. So that would be a good idea. Make sure if you're going to leave money to a charity that you're leaving the right money to that charity. Because, if you just said they're going to get 50% of this account and it's a non-qualified account, meaning it's not an IRA, your kids wouldn't have paid tax on that. The charity still doesn't. But if we leave the IRA, that is a taxable asset to you and your kids, but it's not to the charity. So leave that to the charity. When you get to RMD age, you could also do, or 70 and a half, qualified charitable distributions from that account to that charity. So you're giving to that charity while you're alive. And then when you die, that lump sum would go to them. But that would create tax efficiency.
And those QCDs, what Jeff just mentioned, those count towards your RMD. And that's overlooked by a lot of folks is if my RMD is, let's just say it's $70,000, and I'm giving $25,000 to charity on a regular basis, well, depending on what my modified adjusted gross income is in 2025, if I'm 65 plus and I'm married and my wife's also 65 plus, we're talking about a standard deduction. If your modified adjusted gross income's $150,000 or less, you're talking about a standard deduction of like $46,700. How many people are going to be able to itemize in Nebraska? We have state tax, so the SALT cap, that's part of the OBBBA or OB3, OB-TRICE, depending on how you want to frame it. it removed the SALT cap from 10,000. I shouldn't say removed. It moved it from 10 to 40. So more people will be able to itemize, which opens up additional Roth conversion opportunities, right? But not that many people will still itemize because I think right now 7%, after the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, about 7% of Americans itemized. And so what essentially means is if I gave money to charity, and let's say it's in my IRA, and I take that $75,000 RMD, and then I turn around and I pay it to the charity, I have to put that on Schedule A, itemize it out, and let's say it adds up to $50,000. Did I get a $50,000 deduction for that charitable contribution? No, I didn't, because I would have got 46.7 anyway, right?
Oh.
So, and it added to my AGI, right? So it potentially phased me out of a portion of that additional 6,000. And it could have added more taxation to Social Security, and it counts towards my Medicare being more expensive, so I'm paying higher surcharges. So all this stuff is connected. So don't lose sight of the fact that when you're doing QCDs, it counts towards your RMD. You can still do conversions after you reach a required beginning date. In the year you reach 73, you don't have to take your first RMD. They let you wait until April 1st of the year following the year you reach age 73 or 75 if you're born in 1960 or later. But here's the sticky wicket. You still have an RMD due for the year you reach age 73. It's just they give you a 3-month grace period. So the order of operations would be QCD, Q1, let's say, RMD, Q2, and then if you're going to do conversions, you would do that in Q3 or Q4 because there's a first dollars out rule that says the first dollars that come out of your IRA once you've reached age 73 or you reach your required beginning date or required beginning age are RMD, and you cannot convert or roll over your RMD. So all this relates back to the Retirement Compass. The Retirement Compass is a comprehensive solution. It's like our best ideas in one comprehensive solution, which includes legacy planning, because so often that's kind of the redheaded stepchild of a plan. People come in, it's like, you've done all these things, your money's growing, it's growing at 8 or 9 or 10%, you're doing awesome, you bought some great stocks, yes, this is so good. Do you have a will in place? No. So it's all going to go to your estate. You're going to get the state's will, which means you're dying intestate, so you get the state's succession laws, they decide who gets what. If you want money to go to charity and you say, I do have a will, but I just have everything going to my estate, you just made your entire IRA a probatable asset unnecessarily. Jeff, I'm going to throw one at you. Jackie, I have a few minutes to ask Jeff a question?
Yes, please. Let me give your number, 866-295-5146. If this sounds good, 866-295-5146. Throw it to Jeff.
So I've got, let's say, $800,000 in taxable assets, primarily in a trust account. I've got $2.5 million in IRA money, and I've got $1.5 million in Roth money. Like, that's a pretty darn good plan, right? Mm-hmm. Lots of balance. The beneficiary on all those accounts is spouses. That's a married couple, right? I'm just combining it all together. Spouses is primary. Contingent is a trust. And so the idea is, hey, if something happens to both of us, this all goes into a trust, and the trust sorts it out. And the trust has 4 ultimate beneficiaries. 3 are identifiable because they're humans with a life expectancy, and 1 is a charitable organization. What would be your concern if 3 different money types are flowing into that trust as to what happens with those dollars? Because it relates to what you said a second ago.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that stands out right away is, again, we want the tax deferred bucket. We want that to go to the charity, because your kids, if they get, I can't remember how you broke it out, but let's say it was 4, including the charity.
Yeah,
and they're 25% each.
Yeah.
So 3 of your kids are going to inherit an asset that is going to be taxable to them, and it's not necessary. So you're paying the government, and you don't need to.
Yeah, and then you get into what's called separate accounting, which means you've now introduced 2 different types of beneficiaries. Because if the trust is a see-through trust, it would be an NEDB, and so would the 3 kids. But if it doesn't qualify as what the IRS considers to be a see-through trust or a look-through trust, then it's an NDB, non-designated beneficiary, which means it's going to be subject to either the 5-year rule if the decedent had not reached the required beginning date, or it's going to be subject to what we call the ghost rule, which you get the decedent's remaining single life expectancy as your required payout timeline. The problem with that is, in order to avoid that under the Secure Act 2.0, is you have to do, they now allow separate accounting for those different types of beneficiaries within a trust. But the master trust, if you will, the main trust has to be closed by, I think, December 31st of the year following the year of death. And sub-trusts have to be set up for each of the four or ultimate beneficiaries. And if the language in the trust doesn't specify that, or if it gives discretion to the trustee at all for what goes to each beneficiary, and it's not identifiable, then it blows the whole thing up. And all four beneficiaries would then be potentially subject to the rules that govern the worst, basically, distribution phase. So if it was the 5-year rule, for example, you just cut your potential or your deferral, your tax benefit. You could have deferred for up to 10 years, right? You just cut that in half and it went down to 5 years. Or worse yet, if the person was in their late 80s, it could be 3 years or 2 years because they were so far into their RMDs that their single life expectancy was minimal. So a lot of different pitfalls out there. And our job is to make sure that instead of walking through it in the dark and not knowing whether you're about to step on one of these landmines that could blow up the plan that you had, this would be a reason you want to give us a call, because we've helped folks navigate this plan. We can hold the lamp, be the light to your path, and make sure that you step where you want to, which is the path that gets you to the retirement of your dreams, like I like to say, but also to make sure that if there is money left over that goes to the people, places, organizations, and entities that you love and care about, that you get to choose, having a retirement based off of choice rather than one based off of circumstance.
Use the number to get a hold of Stonebridge, 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. It might sound a little bit like a bit of a word salad, ABC equals 1, 2, 3. What was the song by the Jackson 5? But anyway, luckily you guys understand how all this stuff shuffles around.
That was it.
And does this fall under the Legacy Done Right report?
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. Legacy Done Right is, for folks that are saying, what do I need a will or a trust? And how do I make sure that my resources that are left over get to the people that I care about? Maybe I arrived at the doorstep of retirement and I'm like, oh my gosh, I went and saw Tim at Stonebridge or Jeff or one of their experienced advisors and found out that not only am I ready to retire, but I'm going to have a tough time spending this money because I've done such a good job saving. What is going to happen to it later on? We've got a report that we'll run to you, for you when you come in or give us a call. It's called Legacy Done Right, that just shows you, hey, here's the resources you have. Here's the potential taxation consequences of where those resources are located. Here's how you can optimize your overall legacy to make sure that you're leveraging whatever opportunities are out there to leave as much tax-efficient dollars to the next generation, and make sure that the beneficiaries on your accounts are labeled correctly so the right type of money goes to the right place.
Wow, that's amazing.
Legacy Done Right.
Legacy Done Right report. Okay, you can get that by calling Stonebridge, 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. Call the number, get on the schedule, and start digesting all of this information, because certainly it could apply to you. So many people who are listening, but you got to take the first step and make the phone call, 866-295-5146. Also on YouTube, by the way, new YouTube page, pretty new, for Stonebridge Wealth Systems. Please go on YouTube and follow, and then you can watch all these videos. We also, of course, produce all the content in podcast form, digestible anywhere you get your podcast, but also on the Stonebridge website, Stonebridge IWM, StonebridgeIWM.com. Be right back.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. The one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Hey, welcome back into the show. This is Retirement Compass Radio Show with Stonebridge. We were talking about the great wealth transfer, but you just looked up the statistics, and it's not just the great wealth, but it is the amount of farmland that's going to be transferred.
Yeah, it's a lot. So the great wealth transfer is basically saying, hey, you've got most of the wealth in this country today is controlled by the baby boomer generation, right? It's gone from the great and silent down to the baby boomers. Millennials, that's where I am, have a fair amount. Jeff, what are you again? X? I think you're X.
Yeah.
And they've got more than
X?
millennials. But what's happening is you've got these intragenerational transfers, and over the next 20 years, it could be between 84 and $124 trillion. But of that, up to, I think, $4 trillion of ag land. Now, I'm not saying farm land per se. It could be rangeland, it could be a ranch, row crop, whatever it is. But it's a lot of money, right? And so the question becomes, well, how do you do this in an efficient manner, especially if you have those very common situations where there's 3 kids, 2 boys, 1 girl, or 1 boy, 2 girls, and the girls don't farm, but the son in this scenario does. And how do we make sure that there's a fair, not necessarily equitable, maybe equitable, depending on what your preferences are, but fair arrangement to make sure that you can keep the family together?
This is very interesting. And Jeff, you and I have talked about this before. Is it equitable when the son puts in a whole lot of work and the girls are off living their lives elsewhere with their families out of state, et cetera?
It could be the girls staying back too.
All right, so you have
right?
one of the daughters who wants
Equal
to stay,
opportunity.
yes, with her husband and work the land, yes,
Yeah. So
work the farm.
yeah, everything doesn't have to be equal. And
Okay.
I think as parents, I've got 4 kids, and that's a hard thing, to think, well, I'm going to leave, Avery more than I'm going to leave Aspen or whatever. But you have to think about that when, Tim, don't give me that look. When, if you have a son or a daughter that's on the farm and maybe they're contributing their own money, maybe they help develop some of the land, they put a pivot on, would it really be fair to split that evenly with all of your kids if that one son or daughter invested money into the family ground? Probably not. If that's their livelihood, that's their retirement plan, working that ground that your family has for possibly generations. So a lot of times what we recommend is having that individual purchase life insurance on mom and dad. And you can do, it's called a survivor policy, second to die, where it's covering 2 lives. It makes it less expensive. Some of this depends on health and age and things like that. But that one child that is farming would purchase this policy and be in a position where they could buy out the siblings, because that's the other thing, hopefully your family gets along, but after you're gone, are they going to work well together? The one child that's farming and is renting ground from siblings, can they do that in a manner and get along? That's a question. So that's why I like the life insurance idea, because it gives them, especially if you have a paid off farm, you're in a position where it could stay paid off because they buy life insurance. It's going to be able to buy out their siblings, so they don't have to borrow a bunch of money in order to keep it in the family. Especially at today's interest rates, when you're looking at 7, 8, 9% interest, that could be very expensive, and it could cost them the farm. So that's, I guess, one idea is use life insurance to help fund that need in the future.
Very good stuff. Here's the number to call Stonebridge and talk to the team. Get on the schedule so that you can meet with one of the very experienced advisors. It's 866-295-5146.
You're welcome, Keith.
866-295-5146 here on Retirement Compass Radio Show.
As Americans, we strive for better. From a better house to a better career to a better life for our children and grandchildren. Better has become the American way. When it comes to your retirement, what does better mean to you? Does it mean more income, a flexible lifestyle, better solutions? A better retirement begins with a financial plan. To get your complimentary written financial plan, call the number you see here. You only retire once. This is your opportunity to plan for better.
I want to wish you a very happy September and a very happy life insurance month. Ding, ding, ding. Wait, where's my ding, ding? Hey.
Life Insurance Awareness Month, right?
Right. Happy Life Insurance Awareness Month from everyone here at Stonebridge. This is the Retirement Compass radio show. I've got Tim and I've got Jeff and I'm Jackie. I think this is such an interesting instrument, life insurance. I always thought, before I started working with you and started, understanding things in the financial world, I just thought it was a benefit to the survivors. And that's all it was.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know that so I thought we could give some illustrations that you've gathered and tell people that's not true.
Let's talk about the flexibility of life insurance. By the way, it's September. What are you doing on the 21st in the evening?
21st in the evening watching, is it at the Parade of Planets?
You don't remember what you're
No.
doing on the 21st night of September? You don't?
21st
Okay.
night of September.
I was just
Is that
checking
a
to
song?
see.
Is it a song?
I don't know. Maybe it is.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Somebody may
Maybe
have a
Papa
birth-
Mark knows.
Is it a birthday?
That's a shout out to him. So,
No.
hope
No,
he's
my
listening.
birthday's the 14th. Go ahead.
Mine's the 25th. Hey, birthday month twins.
Yay.
So here's the thing. Life insurance, according to Ed Slott, so not according to Tim, the financial advisor, but according to, famous, well-known, nationally recognized, best-selling author, CPA,
Educator. Yeah.
Ed Slott, who used to have his own program on PBS and now writes books like The Retirement Tax Bomb Ticks Louder, his most recent New York Times bestseller. He says that life insurance is one of the 2 or 3 biggest loopholes in the U.S. tax code, partially because of the leveraging effect, but mainly because it's a tax-free benefit that can be experienced through life insurance. So let me give you a couple examples of how we use life insurance since it's Life Insurance Awareness Month.
Okay.
So had a gal come in yesterday. She brought in the notice she got from her long-term care company. Not going to name any names, but if you like the Constitution, you probably know what I'm talking about. And Herbie was the first name. So anyways, she's paying $648 or $684 a month right now.
Wow.
And she's got one of those unlimited benefit policies from back in the day, Jeff, that they don't offer anymore. And they really, really, really want her to go away. Like, they really want her to go away. And so they're raising her premium by $200 a month. So it'll go from $684 to $884, which, I mean, isn't a drastic increase, but it started probably around $100 25 years ago. And they sent her a letter. They're like, hey, we'll pay you $115,000 if you just go away.
Hey, really?
Why would they do that? Well, because she's 86 years old, and they know that any day now, there's a heightened statistical probability that she might have a claim. And if physically she's in fair health, but she has maybe just needs some assistance with a few things at some point, that claim could go on for a number of years. And with her daily benefit she's got around $300 a day, it'd take a little over a year, and they've paid that $115 out. They're not worried about the $115. They're worried about a 3-year, a 5-year, a 6-year claim, which this is a single female, so there's not a community spouse that could provide assistance to delay or put off the inevitable, assisted living type of arrangement that could happen. So they really want her to go away. And so they keep jacking up her premium. But before you know it, I mean, here in a few years, there's a potential that if she's still living, it might be $1,200 a month, right? And the problem is, if she lives another 10 years, dies peacefully in her sleep, and never needs any sort of assistance, how much money does she get back then?
Zero.
So it puts me in a position where I didn't sell this policy. I don't like traditional long-term care for the reasons I'm explaining to you. And I'm not about to tell her to cancel it and take the $115 because she goes on claim or would have gone on claim. She needs some more sort of assistance 6 months from now. What do you think her family is going to say? What in the heck were you thinking? I thought you were one of the experienced advisors, Stonebridge Wealth Systems. You're supposed to know what you're doing. You told her to cash that out. She's going to spend the money in a year. What if mom's still in there a year from now? You're going to be responsible. You better have some good E&O insurance because we're going to be filing. I'm not doing it, right? So we were able to adjust the inflation protection on the policy. But how could this have been avoided? It could have been avoided if we use a 21st century to a 21st century solution to a 21st century problem. That traditional long-term care, that's a 20th century solution to a 21st century problem. And so, like right now, Zach and I are working on a case where you get a couple, it's a farm family, and so there's like a multi-use case scenario where they've got that estate planning thing we were talking about a minute ago, where there's several kids and not all of them are involved in the farm, and there's a bunch of land, and you can't really just say you get this parcel and you get this parcel because this one's flat and it's irrigated and this one's, pasture land. There's a little bit of a gap there in the valuation. And so it really helps to have an influx of liquidity at death, at the death of the last surviving spouse, to help with the estate equalization. And so what we're doing is we're looking at a life insurance policy that has $1 million death benefit. They pay for 5 years. It's $50,000 a year premium. So it's not like you got to pony up some money here, but they're still working. So by the time they retire, this thing's paid up. Okay, they never have to pay another premium. So they've put $50,000 a year for 5 years, which is how much, Jackie?
What are you looking at me for?
Well, you collate and then you carry the three.
$250,000?
There you go. So they got $250 in. So Jeff talked about this like probably last year during Life Insurance Awareness Month, that life insurance gives you a leveraging effect, right?
Okay.
So for $250,000 in premium paid out over 5 years, they get $1 million death benefit today. Guarantee $1 million death benefit tax free. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not just the internal rate of return of what rate of return would I have to get on that $50,000 a year in order to grow it to $1 million. It's what's the tax equivalent internal rate of return. Because if I'm at a 25% federal, 5% state, combined 30% tax rate, if the internal rate of return is 7 gross, the tax equivalent rate of return, internal rate of return is north of 10%. So where else could I put my money and get a guaranteed 10%? Nowhere. And here's the last thing, and how it ties into the long-term care scenario. If either of them need any sort of assistance at any time between now and the day they die, they can take $10,000 per month, tax-free, to use for whatever long-term care needs they have. This is called an indemnity plan, where they're not sending in receipts and invoices, and this is how much mom and dad's room and board was, and the food bill was that. No. Here's for the nurse, none of that. It's, hey, you qualify. We're going to send you the $10,000. Use it however you want. And if you don't need $10,000, great. We'll pay you $8,000 and the money lasts longer. But each of you get a pool of $500,000. And if neither of you need any sort of assistance, so same scenario before, you die at age 95 peacefully in your sleep, guess what? There's $1 million death benefit, tax-free, that goes to those beneficiaries. So you never had to live with the thought that I'm paying for something that I hope I never have to use.
Okay, that's incredible. That's a pretty heavy statement, and I feel so sorry for the other woman. Here's the number, 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. Call and talk to Jeff or Tim or one of the very experienced team members at, I'm not allowed to say other words to describe the great guys over at, and gals, at Stonebridge Wealth Systems. This is the number, 866-295-5146. Call them and say, hey, I have this thing, or I want to have one of these things, and boy, you guys can help them get this put together. I just think that sounds wonderful, because $10,000 a month for Nebraska, that's a lot. That's a very generous thing for that amount of money. I know it was just an illustration for us for here, but I don't know how much nursing care is exactly. I haven't priced it lately, but that's a very generous outgo, isn't it?
It is. The other thing that you can do, if you have, let's say you bought a universal life or whole life policy years ago and you built up cash value. So maybe, we have a lot of people come in and say, well, I don't need life insurance. Mm-hmm. I paid off all my debt. Kids are out of the house. They're through school, so I don't need life insurance. This is where repurposing those dollars, because you're right, that death benefit isn't a need anymore, but it could be a want. So we need to repurpose that to cover the existing issue, right? The next potential problem is long-term care. So let's repurpose those dollars. Tim talked about $50,000 a year. Well, if you dump in $100,000 in cash value, now that premium could be a little bit lower. It's like a down payment on the policy and accomplish the same thing.
Can you use qualified money for this purpose?
Not really, but let's say that you had qualified money,
okay,
and you wanted to figure out, should I do Roth conversions? Should I, take the money out and spend it? It's for estate planning. Should I put it in a brokerage account? Like that's where that legacy done right plan and report is going to be really helpful, because we'll run the different scenarios. What's the best way to leverage these dollars? And if I'm going to have to take the money out anyway because of RMDs, I can automate the process, put it into a solution that basically just pays the money out on a guaranteed basis. So maybe we use in another insurance product in this case, maybe we want to make sure that we don't run that premium is always covered. I don't want to have to worry about what the stock market's doing to make sure that I feel comfortable with making this premium. Okay, let's take enough of your IRA money, put it into a guaranteed income annuity that's going to kick off the amount of premium we need, paid out maybe over your lifetime in that scenario rather than the 5-year example I gave. And it's taking care of that. It's instead of a Roth conversion, it's just another variation where if you don't need the money, well, we can use the leveraging effect, and you're in good health. We can use the leveraging effect of life insurance. And so now the premium is taken care of. You'll never have to worry about not having the money for the premium. And that death benefit's going to be, usually we'll run these so they're guaranteed towards your life expectancy or beyond your life expectancy. Like it's kind of like buying a car. You can tweak it to fit your like specific needs, if you will. So if you need the fifth or the third row, for additional passenger, we can add it so it has that. If you want the moonroof, the entertainment system, life insurance is kind of built the same way. You can add as many bells and whistles as you want to.
Nice. Here, use this number. Say, I need the bells and whistles, or maybe I don't. 866-295-5146. Call Stonebridge. 866-295-5146.
Is your retirement being eaten up by financial termites like hidden fees, inflation, and avoidable taxes? Call today for a complimentary financial review so we can help you root out these retirement killers.
The show, we hope you're enjoying it. Retirement Compass radio show with Stonebridge Wealth Systems. And I have Mr. Gove here. I also have Mr. Kulhanek here. I'm Miss Selby, single, but I'm not pushing anything. I'm just saying, hey, listen, you have some scenarios to go over. What I wanted to say about this is that you guys do financial services for pretty much anybody, any age group. Am I right? I mean, you could talk to 20-year-olds. You have multi-generational clients who do send their grandkids or kids in to see you to get started, saving for college, all these things, and all the way up to folks in their 80s. And you have an example, a scenario of an octogenarian, and I'm dying to hear this story.
Yeah, so it was a case that really defined why we do the Retirement Compass and why why it's important to work with a holistic planner. So the scenario is this gal's 86 years old. She came in with 2 daughters, and they were concerned about the tax return. They said, we've never had a year like this where she had to pay this much in taxes. So we just want to see what's going on. They came to a workshop that we did here in Kearney, and it was pretty easy to identify what was going on. So she had sold a farm in 2019 and brought the money to her advisor, who put half of the money, about $500,000, in a variable annuity with a certain company, and had an income rider on there. So keep in mind, she's 80 years old. So that was the first concern. An income rider, what that does is it guarantees income for the rest of your life. And again, this is on someone that's 80 years old. So you would have to take that $500,000 out over time. You turn on the rider, start taking that money out. Only when that balance is zero does that rider kick in, and the insurance company is on the hook to continue that income. So that's what you're paying. You're insuring that income. So she got, I think it was $39,000 from this variable annuity last year in 2024. Unfortunately, over the 6-year period or 5-year period, it had only grown $22,000 on $500,000. So There wasn't a lot of gains. But what the advisor told her was, you're paying for this rider. Again, at that point, she was 85.
Wow.
You're paying for this rider. You should use it. So she turned it on. She didn't. She's living with her daughter. She doesn't need income at all. But he's saying, you need to use it because you're paying for it. The expense on that annuity was between 3 and 4% is what she was paying in fees. So that $22,000 comes out first. That was the gains. So that's taxable. So when I looked at her tax return, it was that $22,000 was on there because you made money. An annuity is tax deferred, so you pay tax when you take it out. The rest of the money was put in just a brokerage account, and it's done fine. The problem with that brokerage account is it was designed for to pay dividends. And again, this is someone that doesn't need any income. So when we went down the tax return, it was $22,000 from the annuity she's paying to income tax on. It was $17,000 in dividends that she's paying tax on. It was $9,000 in them turning over that portfolio, the brokerage account that's spinning off the dividends. There's $9,000. The whole portfolio had been turned over the last year, meaning everything was sold and something else was repurchased. So those would have been short-term capital gains, meaning they're taxed as income. So all of those things combined put her in a position where now she's paying tax on 85% of her Social Security. So her taxable income was like $65,000. She ended up having to pay between $4,000 and $5,000 in income tax. And there's an easy solution. And I told her we could get out of this variable annuity. It would cost her between 3 and 4% to leave because there's 1 year left in the surrender schedule. But in her situation, the annuity cost between 3 and 4% anyway. So she's going to pay that fee whether she stays or goes, right?
Might as well go.
Let's get it out of there and into a place where it can grow and be more tax efficient. Because the other side of it, let's say that annuity had grown. Let's say she put in $500,000 and now it's worth $650,000, and then she dies. So now for her 2 girls that were with her, they would pay tax on that additional $150,000 on that annuity because it's tax deferred. So all of the gains would be taxable. If it was in a brokerage account, just like if you own farmland or anything like that, they would get a step up in basis. So same scenario, they put $500,000 in, it grows to $650,000. Your kids would get a step up in basis to that $650,000, so they wouldn't have to pay income tax. So we're putting together a plan that, over the next year, her tax liability should be really close to zero.
Oh, good.
Just because it's invested correctly. We still want that brokerage account to grow, but instead of having it spin off a lot of dividends, let's look for capital appreciation where the share price is increasing of our investments instead of spinning off the income, because then we only pay tax if we sell it. And if we do sell it after a year, we're paying long-term capital gains instead of short-term gains or income tax. So it's an easy fix, but it was like, again, the holistic plan, looking at their income plan. She doesn't need any income. She's living on Social Security, lives with her daughter, so she has virtually no expenses. Her investment plan is killing her right now. The tax plan, again, these all work together. That investment plan is wreaking havoc on the tax plan. So we just got to get that fixed, and then we're good. And then we look at healthcare. She's good there. She's got long-term care. She's got her Medicare all set up. The last thing is legacy plan. The way that her money is invested today, if that annuity had grown, would have created a mess on that legacy plan, totally unnecessarily.
This is one reason to get in to talk to Stonebridge. I feel bad for her. Whoever wrote that variable annuity for her really steered her in a weird direction.
Yeah, and they ask, well, why did he put us in this? And I can't answer that. The gentleman is no longer in the industry that sold that annuity, but all we can do is move forward, right? We look at, okay, what can we do going forward? And we've got solutions, and it's not a big deal. It's something that's easy to fix.
Oh, good.
But you have to have somebody that's, again, a holistic planner that's going to take a look at everything. Because, again, from an investment standpoint, him saying, well, you're paying for this rider, you should use it, that I would generally agree with that. I mean, not for probably an 85 or 86-year-old, but he didn't look at the tax consequences of doing that.
Right. And this is, can we have his name and address? Just kidding. 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. Call Stonebridge and get it all ironed out from a holistic approach. Did you have a comment on that, Tim? You were
I want to stress that we see this all the time, which tells us we know that there are people listening right now that have something like this that could be fixed. It might not be this exact scenario. The scenario could be a little bit different. There's always something that we find when folks come in. I should say that. There's not always something. There's always something we find from someone within, like, every month. We see some scenario where it's like, wow, I can't believe. One just a couple months ago, Zach and I had. This gal had made a mistake, an honest mistake, and she filed her own tax return. She made a mistake. It cost her $16,000. That's why we have you bring in your tax return, because I looked at the tax return, and, like, I'm not a CPA, but I can look at a tax return and be like, that don't make sense. That makes no sense at all. I need to investigate this. And it turns out that, sure enough, she pushed some wrong buttons and she overpaid. And if you think the IRS is going to audit your return to give money back to you as a favor, well, then that's where there's, like, oceanfront property in Arizona that George Strait's going to sell us. Like, you can never get a second opinion from the person that gave you the first. I strongly encourage you. It's no cost, no obligation. Why not give us a call today and let us take a look at your entire picture, the holistic plan, and find out, hey, are there some things, some tweaks that can be made that could save you? Like in this scenario, I mean, we're talking about thousands upon thousands of dollars of unnecessary tax that could be avoided.
right. Well, it's a good idea to just place the call. Like Tim said, there's no cost and there's no obligation to sit down and have one of the team members look at what you got going. 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. And there's also available the stonebridgetaxbill.com. If you'd like to just take a poke at the bear a little bit first before you come in, that's fine too. And that is stonebridgetaxbill.com. Now, when you watch the YouTube channel, there is a QR code up there, and that's what it jumps to, is the stonebridgetaxbill.com. On YouTube, the YouTube page is called Stonebridge Wealth Systems. Spit it out there, Selby. Stonebridge Wealth Systems on YouTube, and if you would like to follow, that'd be great. But the number again is 866-295-5146. Any closing comments on this week's Retirement Compass radio show from Tim or from Jeff?
Oh, it's a race to see who has something to say.
What did anything on your heart, hun?
I mean, I think that, you know, if there's something I would leave folks with is that hopefully you find this show, one, educational. I'm not sure how entertaining we are, but educational. And what we're trying to convey here is that there are strategies out there, whether it's just talking about QCDs, using the power, the leveraging power of life insurance, the tax-free nature of it, talking about things like Roth conversions, making sure that you own the right type of asset, we call it asset location, in the right bucket of money or tax type of money. There's things that go beyond just stocks and bonds and trying to pick better investments or mutual funds. It goes way deeper than that, and that's why we've positioned ourselves where we have as holistic planners. And if you're not currently working with someone that you are absolutely certain is in that box of holistic planning and wants to see your tax return and wants to review your trust documents or your will, that would be a reason, like, why not take an hour or even 15-minute phone call, get on our calendar, and come in and have a conversation with one of us.
866-295-5146. See you next week.